Hey! So another year of futile existence means yet another comically huge iPhone, and this year the biggest and spunkiest Apple blower of them all is this here iPhone 13 Pro Max. Is it a smartphone or is it just an incredibly shiny house brick? And more importantly, how many of my offspring will I have to offload onto the darknet in order to actually afford one? Well, the iPhone 13 Pro Max starts from 1,049 quid SIM free, or you can grab it from 54 quid a month on a 36-month contract from Vodafone, who very kindly sent me this review sample. Cheers, Voda! Now, I've been playing with the iPhone 13 Pro Max for quite some time now to see if it's actually worth that not particularly cheap asking price. So here's my in-depth iPhone 13 Pro Max review, and for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now, first up, we have to address one of the major drawbacks of getting this phone, beyond the wallet emptying price, of course. Apple appears to really like that traditional iPhone design because it hasn't really bothered to change it in absolutely yonks, so the 13 Pro Max does look like some sort of relic lost in time. I mean, it's sheer laziness, but that at least I could sort of somewhat forgive. You could simply bill it as retro, but the iPhone 13 Pro Max is simply unwieldy as well. That chunky straight-edged finish is bad enough on the smaller iPhones, but here, the sheer size of the thing, plus the fact that it's quite a wide boy as well, makes it really uncomfortable to clutch. And that's before you even begin to consider the horrendous weight of this thing, because the Pro Max weighs 240 grams, which is more than most gaming smartphones. Seriously, if I forget to wear my belt and I slip this bad boy back into my jeans pocket, then basically my pants will be around my ankles in mere seconds. Which, to be fair, is always a good excuse when the police turn up. And my final complaint with the design here is that sticky out camera lens, which not only adds to the already mind-boggling chunkiness, but it also means that the iPhone 13 Pro Max rattles around like a mofo when it's flat on its back and you poke the screen. As for the actual materials, well, according to Apple's own blurb, the iPhone 13 Pro Max is constructed from surgical grade stainless steel. It's got a matte finish around back and then a nice glossy bit of edge in there. The arse end is smooth but reasonably resistant to greasy prints as well, and so far there's zero signs of wear and tear. This here is the gold model, which thankfully isn't full-on 90s hip-hop bling, it's more of a subtle, easy on the eye effort. Personally, I rather like it, but if it ain't ringing your bell, we can also grab the iPhone 13 Pro Max in silver, graphite or blue. Kind of a shame you can't pick it up in that gorgeous red colour that you can get some of the smaller, dinkier iPhone 13s in, but hey-ho. As for the screen, well, that is coated in Apple's ceramic shield, which is allegedly tougher than any smartphone glass out there. And so far, after plenty of use and plenty of rough handling, that seems to be a very fair claim indeed. There's not a single scratch or scuff at all on that display, despite the fact I've been shoving it in the same pocket as other smartphones when I've been out and about. So unlike the likes of the Samsung Galaxy S21 screen, you don't have to worry about shoving a screen protector on it. And like pretty much all other flagship smartphones out there, the iPhone 13 Pro Max is also IP68 water and dust resistant. Yeah, you can take it in the shower, the bath, the jacuzzi. Because if you can afford this thing, you've presumably got at least one hot tub somewhere in your homestead. Now, software, and I always advise people to avoid buying a new iPhone or upgrading to the latest version of iOS until they've been around for at least a month. The reason being the surplus of bugs, glitches, and other annoyances that always crop up. And people always seem surprised when the latest version of iOS turns to be an absolute bug-ridden nightmare. I'm not really sure why, clearly very short memories indeed. And yet, sure enough, iOS 15 has been riddled with problems, and the iPhone 13 Pro Max, a full month after launch, still plays silly buggers every now and then, just locks up and requires a restart or whatever. But, you know, give it a few more updates and hopefully everything will settle down and it'll be 100% perfectly smooth and satisfying like it usually ends up being. iOS 15 is still classic iOS through and through, albeit with quite a few refinements and a bit more polish. I like the scrollable widgets, which are pleasantly fluid, while the control center is as useful as always, now with the nifty focus tool to keep unwanted interruptions at bay. FaceTime has been massively upgraded, overhauled and improved just in time for everyone to be sick to the back teeth with any video chat And there's plenty of new social features packed in here, so for instance you can watch a bit of Apple TV or listen to an entire album with your friends, and get their reactions as you're going through. It's obviously not features aimed at me because it takes me about half a week just to get through a single episode of Ted Lasso these days. All the usual iOS irritations are present and correct, so apps will still just suddenly stop downloading files when they shift to the background, meaning that you'll have to keep Audible, Deezer or whatever front and center until absolutely everything is done. And notifications are still poorly handled despite steady improvements, especially as there's no space in that status bar for any quick view icons. So you'll have to be relying on the little red dots to tell you if anything else ticks in. Of course, that's completely unreliable on quite a few apps because you get that little red dot with a notification every 5 seconds pretty much. But overall, I do like all of Apple's main apps, including the likes of the Photos app's perfectly fine, Health app, the Home app, they do exactly what they want. The Maps app is steadily getting better, even if it doesn't quite give you all of the information that Google Maps does when you're driving out and about. I hear it's better in the US. Here in the UK, still some work needs to be done. But hey, massive celebrations because the podcast app finally got a 1 1/4 speed option after how many years of me bitching about it? Cheers, Tim. There's still no fingerprint sensor here, so you are relying on the face unlock instead, which for people who actually still bother to wear a face mask is about as useful as a rubber Johnny machine in a monastery. Unless of course you're rich enough to chuck a few more £100 at Cook & Co for one of the Apple Watches, which then allows you to bypass the whole unlock thing, otherwise it's pin entry all the way, and when you're typing that in a few dozen times when you're out and about, it gets slightly monotonous. Good news is though, apart from the whole face mask shenanigans, no problems whatsoever with that face unlock. Even when you're in a pitch black room, it still seems to figure out exactly whether you're you or not and unlock the smartphone, so that's always good, although you still have to do the swipey thing every single time, which is pointless. As for that mighty 6.7-inch OLED screen, well, it is an absolute beauty once you get over the hilariously massive mustache notch. Now 2778 by 1284 pixel resolution keeps visuals beautifully crisp, while the sharp contrast really can't be touched, especially when you're viewing HDR10 or Dolby Vision content. Punchy colours, deep blacks, crisp whites, the screen really has got it all. It's truly stunning stuff when you're streaming the latest blockbusters or blasting through a game or two. However, while the screen brightness hits very impressive highs for perfect outdoor clarity, when you're out about the sun shining on the screen, you can still see exactly what is going on. Unfortunately, it doesn't dim down as much as many rivals. So it's still a little bit too bright when you're punishing your stupid wide awake brain by doom scrolling at 3 AM. And I found that even when I was in a pitch black room with the auto brightness enabled, it still wouldn't go all the way down to that minimum level for some reason. You've got the night light feature and the likes of that to filter blue light, make things a little bit more comfortable and easy going, but it's still not quite good enough. The refresh rate is great though, scaling from 10 to 120 Hz to either save power or deliver supremely fluid animations. And it's good to finally see an iPhone screen fly over that standard 60 Hz level, even if it doesn't reach that high very often. However, I also did have a problem with the screen sensitivity here on the Pro Max, namely sometimes I'd really struggle to tap really small icons and links throughout a variety of apps and even sometimes on Apple's own keyboard. Quite often I'd have to tap 2 or 3 times for it to actually register. It's a problem that I also had on Sony's Xperia 1 Mark III. I'm really hoping that's just a software issue instead of a hardware glitch, so Apple can actually get it sorted at some point, but I did have a quick browse online. It looks like other people are having a similar issue. As for the stereo speaker setup, well, that is a winner. It's incredibly loud when you boost the volume right up, but without buggering up the quality of the audio. It's just a shame that there's subtle headphone jack here, like a lot of other premium phones. So it's a good thing then that the Bluetooth connectivity was absolutely fine. A strong, stable connection, whether I was hooked up to headphones, on the go in a really busy area, or just, streaming to a speaker here in the home. And if you happen to download a lot of media or make liberal use of that camera tech, well, the good news is that the iPhone finally comes with a minimum of 128 gigs of storage. Hip hip huzzah, though sod all microSD memory card support to actually expand that, so you might want to spunk up a bit of extra cash if you find you take a lot of video or photos on your iPhone. Now, performance is one area where the iPhone 13 Pro Max shines like a freshly smacked arse. Apple's A15 Bionic chipset is one of the most powerful mobile chipsets around. It can handle pretty much anything you chuck at it. Perfect if you want to do creative tasks like edit video on the fly or play demanding games like Genshin Impact on those maxed out settings with no stumbles in the super smooth frame rate. And you get full 5G support built in here as well, and again a strong stable Wi-Fi connection too, so no issues on that front. But one of the main reasons for getting the iPhone 13 Pro Max over the smaller models is the fact that the battery life is absolutely sublime. This beast can keep on going for a couple of days between charges unless you're like a super demanding user. I found that even with a lot of screen on time, we're talking sort of 7-8 hours a day, lots of media streaming, camera use, a bit of the video chat and all of that shenanigans, I tended to finish a day with around sort of 30 to 35% alive, so definitely one of the best out there for battery life. Charging speed's not anywhere near as good as the competition. You've got 20 watt wired charging via the usual old lightning cable. Otherwise, you've got support for 15 watt wireless charging using a MagSafe device or 7.5 watt Qi wireless charging. It's a strong finish all around for the iPhone. Another area where it is at the top of its game is that camera tech. You've got a triple 12 megapixel setup as with the Xperia 1 Mark III, including a primary, ultra-wide and telephoto shooter. And although the megapixel count is low compared with many rivals, I found that my test shots packed in enough crisp detail to look good when they were blown up onto a telly or monitor, while colours are often as accurate as what I saw on the Pixel 6 phones. Even indoors and in low light, the iPhone can still produce quite natural looking images with competitive levels of detail, although it does struggle with contrast, often blown out lighter elements compared with the Pixels and the Samsungs. Moving subjects are usually captured cleanly, apart from indoors where I saw a few blurry results. The iPhone 13 Pro Max's ultra-wide angle lens offers a 120-degree field of view when you want to pull back and change the framing, although colour reproduction is typically warmer than in real life, and in low light you can expect flat, grainy photos. As for the telephoto shooter, well, this can get you much closer to the action when needed, maxing out at 15 times optical and digital zoom. Your pics will stay sharp up to around the sort of 8 times zoom mark. Pushing it any higher than that makes for soft, unappealing results, but those results are competitive outside of the S21 Ultra and other super premium Androids. For your home movies, you can shoot up to 4K resolution video at 30 or 60 frames per second, and as usual, Apple's beefy blower does impress. Even in strong contrast, you'll get quite a sharp picture, while audio pickup is crisp and clear both front and back. You can swap between the three lenses with minimal disruption, and even at that Ultra HD level, the stabilization is smooth. And yeah, you've also got that new cinematic mode that everyone can't stop banging on about, which adds a bokeh style effect to your video. Occasionally the focus shits its pants a little, but otherwise it's fine. And then last up, around front in that rather ridiculous notch, there is a 12 megapixel selfie snapper which performs well as long as the lighting isn't too taxing. In more ambient environments, skin tones are shot to hell and detail levels drop rapidly, similar to what I saw with the Pixel 6. So that, my friends, is my full, final, frank review of the Apple iPhone 13 Pro Max. And after all that bollocks, the question is it actually worth all of your cash? Well, if you're a power user who wants to keep plugging away all day and you really get on well with iOS, you've got lots of other Apple kit in your homestead, and also a very, very healthy savings account, then sure, go for it. You'll have to live with a few flaws, but it is all round a solid-ish device. However, if you're literally looking for a smartphone to do just all the standard stuff, messaging mates, streaming audio and video, messing around, taking selfies, things like that, then it's a hard pass. For this sort of cash, you can get much better value for your money. The fact that the Pixel 6 is almost half the price of this bloody thing, and you can basically do everything that this thing can, yeah. And I know this review might sound quite negative on the whole. That's mostly just because I think other reviews are overly positive on it, a bit too enthusiastic, which makes me sound like a bit of a Debbie Downer. So I did draw up a pros and cons list of the iPhone 13 Pro Max. And as you can see there are actually more pros to buying the iPhone 13 Pro Max than there are cons, although the final con is a bit of a motherfucker. So yeah, is it a 5-star smartphone, as some people seem to think? Well, the fact that there's more than about 2 or 3 things in that list suggests very strongly no, it's not. But anyhow, that's enough of me banging on. What about you guys? Have you been using the iPhone 13 Pro Max? Am I just a massively miserable twat that's just down on iPhones in general? Let me know in the comments below, I'm sure you will. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe, ding that notifications bell, and have yourselves a fantastic rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you!